izin untuk tim admin untuk dapat mungkin mempinkan Ibu Miranti, Ibu Juli, dan Ibu Mira serta saya sendiri ke dalam satu share apa namanya di sini agar kita bisa bersama-sama untuk menjawab pertanyaan dari Bapak Ibu yang memang sudah masuk. Mohon izin juga nanti saya akan mempersilahkan everybody ya untuk dapat raise hand karena nanti untuk pertanyaan terbaik akan mendapatkan merchandise dari Alfai dan juga UC Teman LPDP yang akan dikirim ke alamat teman-teman seperti itu. Nah, sambil kita juga menunggu about the participant that are going to raise hand for the question, I see that a lot of question ya already pop up in here. So maybe I am going to answer to read the question from. All right, let me check it. Okay, all right. The first question is from Alfian. Yeah, okay, Alfian. The question is going to be asked to Ibu Julie. Hi, Dr. Dalquist. My name is Alfian, a former USAID Prestasi awardee. Are there any other scholarship schemes that Yale offers? Are there and then, for instance, graduate research assistantship and graduate teaching assistantship? Thank you. All right, Ibu Julie, yeah, please. The question from Alfian on the
Sure.
chat box, yeah.
Absolutely. So I'm just actually put something back in the chat for everybody to reference here. It's a link to our affording your master's in asset management, and this is basically the general kind of scholarship information for our students. I will say that I'm just rereading the question here. We do have, sorry, I just wanted to read it. Let's see. Okay, other scholarship offices. Okay, so I'll kind of address this in two ways. We have Office of Financial Aid or Financial Management that helps every single one of our students kind of address how they are going to pay for the degree. We understand that this is a large commitment monetarily, so we want to make sure that we do everything possible to help students from you know, not only the United States, but from all around the world, Indonesia included, can pay for this information to pay for the degree. So I have included a link in the chat that kind of outlines the way that our financial aid office works at ELSOM, and you can feel free to kind of drill down and see. In addition, I see that this question asked about graduate research assistantship and teaching assistantships. Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, for both the Master's in Asset Management and the MBA programs, there are opportunities to do research work and assistantship work with the professors. It really depends on, you know, what their needs are. There aren't, you know, a specific number of slots or a specific number of jobs. So I would say that it's a possibility. It's not guaranteed, but to kind of help you with the monetary commitment.
All right, thank you, Ibu Julie. I hope it's answered your question ya, Bapak Alfian. And then I am going to ask another question from Terenia. I think it is for Ibu Mira. Halo Ibu Mira Sambada, apa yang bisa disupport oleh UC Teman LPDP kepada calon mahasiswa yang akan melanjutkan master program di Amerika? Menarik nih Bu ya, tadi kan soalnya Ibu bilang, kita bukan LPDP tapi kita teman. Nah teman yang seperti apa sih Bu? Ya, monggo silahkan Ibu.
Terima kasih Mbak Valen. Ya, makasih Mbak Teresia for the question ya. Kami di dalam hal ini teman itu memiliki beberapa lewat webinar dan juga lewat beberapa program yang ada itu seperti bootcamp. Karena itu harus terus memantau teman LPDP di IG-nya, karena di situ akan banyak sekali informasi apa yang coming up soon. Di sini saya tidak bisa menyebutkan karena terlalu banyak. Mbak Valen sudah merasakan betapa vibrantnya, banyak sekali variasinya dan sebagainya. Tapi yang jelas kalau Mbak Teresia ini, apakah Anda seorang dosen? Kalau Anda seorang dosen, BPI atau Beasiswa Pendidikan Indonesia itu memiliki beberapa program yang disebut namanya Pathway Program. Pathway Program itu membantu untuk ini master ya, ya betul. Oh enggak, PhD ya. Ini untuk yang dosen ini udah master kebanyakan dan mereka melanjutkan untuk doctorate. Kalau untuk master program, kami saat ini tidak bisa melakukannya individual, tetapi melakukannya lewat institusi. Itu yang bisa kami sampaikan. Misalkan Anda berasal kan dari IPB, mungkin IPB mempunyai permintaan kepada tim teman untuk bagaimana sih membantu para mahasiswa yang ingin melanjutkan kepada S2. Nah, dari situ kita bisa membuat sebuah program bersama, mungkin sesuatu yang bisa masalah utamanya apa? Apakah writing-nya, academic writing-nya, atau apakah itu personal statement atau seperti tadi Mbak Miranti sampaikan, itu ada keunikan khusus memang untuk menulis personal statement atau menulis study objective. I think bisa disetujui ya Mbak, itu harus ada teknik-teknik tersendiri yang bisa membuat orang tertarik. You cannot be a normal everybody person. You have to be able to give yourself a standing point. Make yourself like sesuatu yang, wah ini orang ini harus diambil nih oleh kita. She is very different. She has a quality that the university needs to get, gitu. Untuk universitas mendapatkan international students, especially from Indonesia, is a very big asset for them because it gives a profile to the university. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ibu Julie, an international student does give a profile to the university and it's very important. That's why. Oke, itu mungkin yang saya bisa sampaikan. Mungkin itu ada pertanyaan lagi yang lain. I hope that answers your question, Mbak Terenia.
Oke, baik. Thank you Bu Mira. Mudah-mudahan menjawab ya. Izin juga menambahkan Bu, kebetulan kan teman juga punya berbagai event ya, acara-acara yang memang mendukung untuk kita mendapatkan bagaimana cara mendapatkan beasiswa gitu kan di LPDP. Kebetulan juga Alfai menyelenggarakan juga ya Bu ya, webinar setiap bulan. Kita mengundang prospective students dan juga mengundang universitas untuk menjadi co-host. Jadi ini bisa menjadi jembatan Bu, enabler ya Bu ya, kepada universitas di Indonesia, contohnya IPB yang memang memiliki mahasiswa dan dosen yang akan berkuliah ke Amerika untuk kita sambungkan nih kepada admission-nya. Kebetulan Ibu Juli juga hadir. Jadi itu merupakan salah satunya. Namun yang selanjutnya juga sebelumnya juga saya juga mengikuti kegiatan dengan Future Student ya Bu ya. Itu benar-benar gimana di bootcamp kita diajarkan cara bagaimana how to write a personal statement gitu kan ya, yang memang benar-benar standar dari US seperti itu. Dan itu tadi disampaikan Bu Mira untuk kita pantengin kegiatan-kegiatan yang ada di Alfai dan juga UC Teman LPDP, karena setiap minggunya bakal ada terus gitu kan ya kegiatan-kegiatan yang memang sudah sudah di range oleh teman-teman di USA Teman LPDP. Jadi jangan lupa follow ya teman-teman ya. Oke, saya masih menunggu jika ada yang mau bertanya secara langsung melalui feature raise hand, karena kita ada hadiah merchandise buat teman-teman yang bertanya secara langsung. Sambil mungkin nanti tim admin bisa diingatkan jika ada yang raise hand. Oke, ini sudah ada satu orang yang raise hand kepada Ibu Dila Ferawati ya. Baik, Ibu Dila Ferawati silahkan Bu.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Valentina. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Julie, Mbak Mira, and Mbak Miranti for the insight about Yale University and study overseas. So my question is for Julie and Ms. Miranti. The question is, what's the most challenging or the hardest part in the process in getting accepted in Yale University? Thank
All
you.
right. All right, thank you Ibu Dila. Ibu Dila, where are you from? Your institution, sorry. Dari mana, Mbak?
I'm IPB University
Oh,
alumni.
okay, alumni from the IPB University, our co-host. All right, maybe Mbak Miranti, you can answer first, and then after that, Ibu Julie, you can continue ya. All right, thank you, Mbak.
Thank you Mbak Dila untuk pertanyaannya. Memang waktu untuk bisa diterima di Yale, menurut aku sih yang waktu itu paling challenging itu adalah menulis actually the essay itself. Karena memang menulis essay itu tadi seperti Bu Mira bilang ya, itu ada caranya gitu untuk kita menggali diri kita dan kemudian bagaimana kita quote and quote ya menjual diri kita melalui tulisan kita. Dan waktu itu I needed like a month to write the essay. Like one piece of essay, but it took me a month to do it. Because karena kan kita butuh reflect. Jadi first draft, second draft, third draft. Mungkin dulu Bu Mira nih yang dulu juga membantu ya untuk selalu review. Akan selalu membutuhkan review, dan terus-terusan review. Waktu itu cukup challenging buat saya sih di situ. Sama yang kedua, itu adalah GRE. GRE test was quite painful actually. Tapi ya bisa dikerjakan, bisa dilaluin tesnya dengan nilai yang baik. Selama kita belajar sih. But I had the privilege karena my academical background in IPB at that time was good. Like I got a good GPA, I graduated cum laude. It was like an added value for myself untuk academical background. And then for my work as well, walaupun dari sisi S1, planologi, ke kehutanan, it seems like what jumping ya gitu ya, switching field. Tapi karena ada bridgingnya, which is my work of place gitu ya, tempat kerja, sehingga memang cerita aku tuh benar-benar bisa mengalir. Dan memang aku masuk ke Yale, it was because ya memang Yale adalah tempat yang benar-benar sesuai. Jadi bukan sekedar kalau bahasa sekarang ya, it's not just about being FOMO gitu, tapi memang Yale itu memang adalah pilihan yang terbaik yang bisa aku ambil untuk goal aku. Jadi benar-benar di situ ya it was already in one complete package. Cuman butuh berdarah-darahnya aja untuk TOEFL, IBT, GRE, dan kemudian menulis essay-nya. Itu sih Mbak Dila dari saya, semoga membantu.
Baik, semoga menjawab ya Mbak Dila ya. And then we are going to continue with Ibu Julie. Ibu Julie, the question is what is the hardest part ya about the admission to Yale ya. So maybe you have maybe a tips or maybe is there any waiver on GRE so we don't have to take GRE or something like that. So maybe you have kind of like answer. Thank you, Miss Julie.
Sure. I will say, unfortunately, there is no way around having to take a standardized test for admission in both the MBA and the Master's in Asset Management program. So everyone is on the hook for that. I wish I could tell you otherwise, but that is something that you unfortunately need to build into your system, build into your schedule rather, and just do as best you can. I'll provide another perspective about what people have found challenging regarding the application process or one of the challenging part. I will say people, and I have this with an eye to another question that's in the chat, so I'm hoping to answer two questions at once. Is that the selection of recommenders is often something that causes people a lot of anxiety or a lot of stress. For the Master's in Asset Management program, and I believe the MBA, we require two personal recommendations. One is an academic recommendation, and the second is a professional recommendation. My suggestion and kind of tip and trick and hint for you is to make sure that you select recommenders that really know you personally. We are less impressed with the title of your recommenders. We want somebody who can share very specific information about how you perform in the classroom or how you perform in a professional setting. So it's best for you to ask for a recommendation for someone who has really worked with you, specifically a professor that you know and can speak to how you behave in the classroom, and are you inquisitive? Are you a leader in the classroom? Those are things that we're looking for when we read through those recommendations. And in your professional recommendation as well, you know, how do you perform in a professional setting? We want students at Yale School of Management to be able, we want to feel comfortable that they will leave us at Yale and enter the workforce and make us proud. We want students that will excel on a professional level. So it's helpful. Again, we value very much predictive behavior. If people have shown examples of how, you know, they are really becoming if they're a leader in their professional setting, wherever they are on their you know, academic or professional journey, are you challenging yourself? You know, are the recommenders able to speak to very specifically kind of what you are contributing both in the classroom and on a professional level? So I will say that that's what we get a lot of questions on for admissions, and I will say the selection of your recommenders is very important. So, you know, that would be some advice I would suggest to follow. Make them personal. We don't care about the title of your recommender. If it's professional, we want to know someone who has worked with you intimately.
Alright, semoga menjawab ya Mbak Dila ya. Jadi memang kita harus mencari rekomendator yang memang tahu ya secara diri kita secara lebih detail. Nah, mudah-mudahan Mbak Dila nanti juga akan mencoba untuk mencari siapakah rekomendator itu yang akan membantu Mbak Dila untuk bisa mendaftar ke Yale, dan mudah-mudahan lancar ya Mbak ya proses untuk admissionnya. Alright, thank you Mbak Dila. And then I am going to go to another question. Yeah, thank you Mbak Dila. There are 3 people already raise hand, but I am going to give an opportunity to IPB Mirza Sukardi first. Okay, for Bapak Mirza, maybe you can ask the question directly.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Hi, Julie. I wanted to ask about. I wanted to ask about you stated most of the School of Management students that are taking the asset management programs are either, you know, fresh graduates or they have an experience of 3 years of working in the industry, right? So would you think that the students that have experiences are, you know, better, they have better performance in classes, and I mean their overall academic performance are better than the fresh graduate students? Would you think that? And the second question that I want to ask you is about, you know, one of the requirements is to have a quantitative course preparation. So do you have, you know, at Yale, do you have the specific course or specific level of quantitative course that students have to take before they apply and study at, you know, at the program? Thank you.
All right. Thank you for the question, Miss Julie. Please answer.
Sure. First of all, thank you for your questions. Those are both fantastic questions. I'll start with the second question first, actually, addressing the quantitative preparation necessary for the Master's in Asset Management program. And I'm going to put something here in the chat. Oh, sorry. Hang on one second. Didn't quite copy over. Hang on, there we go. Okay. So for the Masters in Asset Management program, we encourage people from all kind of majors and backgrounds to apply to this program. That said, it is a very quantitatively intense program. And so we also like to set people up for success. To be successful in this type of program, you do have to have a certain quantitative foundation to be able to make it through, essentially. So I just put in the chat some specific suggestions for how you can prepare yourself quantitatively to apply to and be successful in the program. You don't have to have all of these. These are not assignments. They're not requirements. They are just suggestions for what we found students, the most successful students in the program have a background or have some exposure, I should say, to these. Now, if students are already out of, have come through their undergraduate experience and they don't have the opportunity to take these in a university setting, no problem. We very much value kind of an online coursework or, anything with a certificate per se. If you want to take some online courses to get some exposure, say you need to, bone up on your linear algebra, you can do that in an online course. And we value that exposure as well. So don't worry if you're out of school and you don't have the chance to take these at university. There are many other ways to kind of gain exposure to these quantitative subjects, and there's a special space in our application where we ask you to list those experiences. So we value all sorts. I'll now address the first question. I think it was kind of regards to how we consider students that are coming straight from undergrad with really no full-time experience, how we kind of evaluate them and value them as compared to students who are coming to us with a little bit more full-time experience. And I will say we work very hard and spend a lot of time meeting you where you are in your professional and academic journey. We value both. I know that's a tough answer for you to hear, but we really value the perspectives of students. Like, everybody's bringing something different to the table, and we want students that are going to be collaborative and really offer their opinions, and someone who has full-time experience, even if it's not in the asset management industry, has something to add here, and we value that. We look for a mix. Technically, students coming fresh out of undergrad may have a different perspective than someone who's been in an investment banking setting, in an asset management setting, and have something different, bring a different perspective to how we're asking them to think in the program. So there's not one that is valued more than the other. We think that they can work together to kind of provide some different perspectives for the class. I hope that helps.
Alright, thank you. Semoga menjawab ya jawaban dari Ibu Julie tadi. Thank you, Miss Julie. And then I am going to give another opportunity to maybe Bapak Pangeran dari Babel ya, Bangka Belitung. Pak Pangeran, monggo Pak, pertanyaannya silahkan. Jika ingin menggunakan bahasa Indonesia, silahkan. Akan saya translate nanti. Silahkan Pak Pangeran.
Oke, terima kasih Kak atas kesempatannya. Ini izin juga ada on cam dan menggunakan bahasa Indonesia. Pangeran saat ini masih kelas 12 Kak, jadi belum bapak-bapak.
Oh iya, mohon maaf Mas Pangeran.
Oke, izin bertanya kepada Kak Miranti. Kak, kebetulan Pangeran juga dari Palembang, kebetulan sama dengan Kak Miranti, tapi saat ini Pangeran sedang mengenyam pendidikan SMA di Kepulauan Bangka Belitung. Nah, sama dengan Kak Miranti tadi, bahwasannya Pangeran juga dari keluarga sederhana, bukan keluarga yang berada. Kalau Kak Miranti tadi, kedua orang tuanya adalah tenaga pengajar, kalau Pangeran adalah seorang petani dan juga pabrik tempe, begitu. Jadi kurang lebih sama. Nah, saya sangat termotivasi dengan Kak Miranti tadi, bahwasanya Kak Miranti memiliki mimpi yang besar. Mungkin sebagian orang meremehkan mimpi tersebut, tapi dengan keyakinan Kak Miranti dapat mewujudkan gitu S2 di Yale University. Nah, Pangeran juga termotivasi bahwasanya Pangeran memiliki mimpi besar untuk bisa berkuliah di luar negeri, tetapi saat ini mungkin kalau untuk S1 kan agak susah karena Pangeran sudah di kelas 12, mungkin sudah terlambat. Kalau untuk kata terlambat mungkin tidak ada kata terlambat. Tetapi untuk persiapan yang kurang matang, mungkin kita tidak bisa memaksimalkan persiapan tersebut. Nah, untuk pertanyaannya adalah apa yang harus Pangeran persiapkan mulai dari sekarang? Karena misalnya kayak nyari university, seperti yang kita ketahui bahwasanya masuk ke Universitas Indonesia itu tidaklah mudah. Nah, apakah dengan universitas yang biasa-biasa saja Pangeran tetap bisa gitu untuk melanjutkan S2 di luar negeri seperti itu? Terima kasih.
Alright, thank you Mas Pangeran. And then the question is going to be asked to Ibu Miranti ya. Bu Miranti, Mbak Miranti, ini tadi pertanyaan dari Pangeran. Mudah-mudahan bisa dijawab ya Mbak ya. Dengan penuh selamat, silahkan Mbak Miranti.
Thank you, Valen. Thank you, Mas Pangeran. Keren banget ya sudah punya mimpi untuk kuliah di luar negeri. Itu udah keren banget, Mas Pangeran. Dan yang pertama terkait dengan apakah harus universitasnya yang benar-benar seperti apa gitu ya. Mungkin nanti Bu Mira ya bisa menambahkan. Tapi pengalaman saya ketika mendapatkan scholarship, itu tuh nggak perlu kayak universitasnya yang benar-benar harus yang UI, ITB gitu kan ya, Bu Mira nggak perlu harus ITB gitu. Dari universitas manapun juga bisa. Nah, memang seperti yang tadi dibilang sama Julie, banyak yang dilihat itu bukan hanya sekedar academical background-nya, tapi juga impact kepada community. Mumpung nih sedang mencari universitas buat S1, nanti ketika kuliah, jangan hanya terjebak kepada akademiknya aja. Tapi fokuslah juga kepada kegiatan-kegiatan di luar akademik ya Bu Mira ya, misalnya dengan komunitas, kemahasiswaan, tunjukkan leadership-nya, ibaratnya lebih semacam membangun portfolio CV-nya. Apa yang bisa muncul di dalam CV selain IPK gitu. Selain mata kuliah yang diambil, selain IPK, pernah terlibat dalam komunitas seperti apa? Misalnya di Bangka Belitung nih gitu ya. Mungkin dalam komunitas-komunitas petani, kontribusi yang dilakukan ketika selama kuliah S1, kemudian mungkin ikut kegiatan kemahasiswaan, itu kan akan menjadi portfolio di dalam CV-nya dan pasti itu pun akan menjadi cerita yang powerful ketika menulis esainya. Jadi mau kuliah dimanapun, yang penting tadi aja sih maksudnya kita ngebangun portfolio kita, cerita kita sendiri di situ. Nah, nggak apa-apa nggak S1 di luar negeri, karena memang kalau S1 di luar negeri, biayanya harus biaya sendiri ya, nggak ada beasiswanya. Jadi ya nggak apa-apa, kita S2-nya di luar negeri aja, S2-nya aja nih Mas Pangeran. Tapi bisa banget dimulai dari sekarang, mulai belajar bahasa Inggrisnya, diperkuat bahasa Inggrisnya, kemudian masuk universitasnya, lirik kegiatan komunitas, kemahasiswaan, bangun portfolio-nya. Itu mungkin dari saya, Mas Pangeran. Semoga membantu.
Alright, thank you Mbak Miranti. Mungkin dari Bu Mira ada tambahan Bu, apakah benar hanya universitas yang top-top saja sih yang bisa kuliah ke Amerika? Nah, gimana nih Bu?
Ya enggak lah Mbak Valen, benar
Iya,
kata Mbak Miranti juga.
iya.
Jangan merasa karena universitas, aduh saya hanya diterima di universitas A gitu yang notabene nggak terkenal atau kecil atau dari daerah, itu enggak. Karena yang dilihat adalah orangnya, bukan dari universitasnya. Yaitu yang kata Mbak Miranti, bangunlah portfolio diri Anda sehingga Anda adalah orang yang memang amat sangat dicari oleh universitas itu. Ini ini ada Kakak Selni di sini. Kakak Selni mungkin bisa cerita tentang Puspresnas karena ini suatu titik stepping stone yang bisa untuk anak SMA nih ya Mbak Kak Selni. Boleh Kak Selni? Boleh ya Mbak Valen?
Siap. Silahkan Kak Sel.
Oke, halo semua. Thank you very much for this morning, yang sangat bermanfaat sekali. Tadi pertanyaannya sebenarnya Bu Mira terkait soal teman-teman yang undergrad ya. Jadi kalau di Indonesia sendiri ini sebenarnya kalau di undergrad ini itu saat ini memang baru ada satu beasiswa itu dari Puslapdik gitu ya, dari Puslapdik gitu. Itu namanya beasiswa Indonesia Maju. Nah, beasiswa Indonesia Maju ini memang fokusnya itu untuk teman-teman S1 yang ingin berangkat ke Amerika atau ke negara lainnya sebenarnya. Gitu. Dan itu fully funded gitu, itu sebanyak selama 4 tahun itu dibiayai. Nah, namun memang sistemnya ada dua gitu. Sistemnya karena Puspresnas ini kan adalah lebih fokus pada anak-anak yang berprestasi gitu. Jadi jika teman-teman itu sudah berkompetisi dalam level nasional dan kemudian apalagi sampai level internasional kayak gitu ya, itu bisa mendapatkan peluang ke sini gitu. Dan sistemnya pun ada dua, ada namanya persiapan untuk beasiswa undergrad gitu. Jadi ada preparation for the scholar undergrad, tapi itu persiapan. Jadi selama sekitar 1 tahun itu ada persiapan. Nah, tapi ada juga yang tidak mengikuti persiapan ini juga bisa apply gitu. Jadi memang basicnya sudah fokus pada anak-anak yang memang sudah disiapkan untuk belajar ke luar negeri. Dan setiap tahunnya itu banyak banget kok gitu. Karena pemerintah kita alhamdulillah saat ini sudah cukup baik untuk memberikan beasiswa kepada anak-anak baik yang undergrad maupun teman-teman yang master degree sekarang juga udah pada banyak. Dan kalau untuk undergrad juga ada, jangan lupa ada beasiswa ISMA gitu ya, juga ada beasiswa MOSMA, non degree beasiswa yang itu teman-teman bisa ikuti. Dan yang terbaru saat ini ada beasiswa santri. Kalau teman-teman bisa cek di Instagramnya Kemenak gitu ya, kalau yang under di bawah boarding school gitu, atau misalnya yang di bawah Kemenak tapi ya, jadi universitasnya ini beda. Jadi yang di bawah Kemenak itu bisa melamar sekarang beasiswa santri sedang buka saat ini. Seperti itu. Terima kasih.
Alright, iya, alright. Semoga menjawab ya. Ternyata dari manapun asal kita punya semangat dan juga punya tujuan yang jelas, bisa kok pasti kita untuk mendapatkan beasiswa S2 ke Amerika. Baik, dari Kak Selni kayaknya ada pertanyaan tadi ya Kak ya kepada Bu Julie ya. So Ibu Julie, there is a question for Ibu Selni. So maybe Kak Selni you can ask directly to Ibu Julie.
Oke, thank you Kak Valen, thank you teman-teman Alfai, dan thank you Bu Mira for representative from user teman LPDP. I will ask to Julie, does Yale management or Yale University have a co-funding system? Because now the big scholarship in Indonesia is LPDP, and currently LPDP this year's and the next year is focusing to co-funding area, building from LPDP to university in America, or from Indonesian university with American university. And you said teman LPDP currently making several tailor-made program with the American university, like for the master degree, micro-credential and special initiative for disabilities, which is we want launching next year's, and we look opportunity for this co-funding system. Thank you.
All right, please answer, Ms. Julie.
So I want to make sure I understand your question. It's about any sort of some sort of co-funding system that you're looking with between Yale University and some other Indonesian other universities, etc. You know, I do not. I probably am not able to answer your question sufficiently, unfortunately, and I apologize for that. We in admission kind of deal with student student requests. And again, I want to make sure I'm answering correctly. You're talking about instituting a series of scholarships along with Yale University. Okay, just a continuation. I mean, I think I will say that the Office of Financial Aid works specifically with international students, and I'm sure would be interested in any sort of scholarship opportunities that an international organization would like to partner with Yale University on. I think it's absolutely worth having a conversation. I can't speak to the specifics of the process to kind of get that into place, on a more macro level. That would be something for the Office of Financial Aid and kind of the that channel at Yale School of Management and Yale University to explore. I will say that on the individual level, when you apply to the Master's in Asset Management program and the MBA program, you are automatically considered for merit scholarship. There's no separate application process. If you would like to follow up after and those decisions come with the admission decision. If at that point you would like to explore additional opportunities for scholarship or funding, that would take place after. And that's when we would really encourage you to work specifically with our financial aid office to kind of see what is available to international students and how best to fund. So all that is to say, I'm sure our Office of Financial kind of Management would be excited to explore any sort of consistent year-over-year co-funding opportunity. I think that's a conversation that they would definitely be willing to have.
Okay, thank you. Maybe Bu Mira can tell more about actually the settlement LPDP is more about we made the tailor-made program with LPDP. So in this year we can send I think 20, right Bu? 20 santri go to Islamic college in Chicago. So we made the tailor-made like this program with the system, the co-funding, and also we have the system for the micro-credential. So I would like we can discuss more about it maybe next time, not this forum. Thank you, Julie, for your answer. Thank you.
Alright, thank you Kak Selni. And then, saya tadi janji nih memberikan pertanyaan kepada Mas Raffi Mumtaz ya. Silakan Mas Raffi Mumtaz pertanyaannya.
Okay, thank you so much, Kak Valentina. I have, first of all, hope you're all doing well. I have a question for Julie. Julie, thank you so much for sharing. I'm sure it's quite late right now where you're at, so please bear with us a bit, okay? And thank you so much for your time. I've read on the website that Yale provides opportunity to begin pivot into the industry by the practical experience in the curriculum. Some of us decided to pursue higher education in finance because there are many options like CFA, if I know correctly. Yeah, so for my first question will be what makes asset management in Yale stands out between CFA, because for some of us it's quite more affordable. And then the second one is regarding ESG investing. Can you tell us any notable partners and case done for or by students? Because I'm sure that the networking opportunities is better than some professional certifications. And lastly, because Indonesia is a Muslim majority country, right? So if I want to pursue a higher education in finance, I'm sure that I want to chase a degree in Sharia finance. Is there any ongoing research for Sharia finance in Yale School of Management? Thank you so much, Julie.
Alright, before Ibu Julie answer, maybe Mas Mumtaz dari institusinya mohon disampaikan.
Oh, I'm an alumni from IPB.
Alright, alumni IPB. Okay, maybe Ibu Julie can answer the question.
Sure. I'll start with the first question regarding the differences in kind of the value of the Yale Masters in Asset Management program versus some other kind of affordable, I want to say affordable or different avenue certificates, namely the CFA. One of our founders, Toby Moskowitz, who is very well regarded in industry and has a background coming out of University of Chicago Booth, and has spent the last number of years with us here at Yale. Termed it nicely when he was asking, because a lot of people kind of wonder what the relationship is between the CFA and a master's in asset management. And his response was, and I'll kind of half quote him, was the CFA is really more of the mechanics. It's kind of processes and things like that. The master's in asset management, we at Yale, we try to teach you how to approach an issue in the asset management. So it's more how you approach a problem or some sort of challenge in an industry. The CFA will tell you how to systemically solve it in the processes you need. The master's in asset management is really challenging you in how to think about that. So I will say a lot of our students, I'm not gonna say a lot, some of our students have come to us at various different points in their CFA journey. And that's very valuable. We take a look at that, you know, when we assess that along with other people's kind of skills that they bring to the application. You know, it's not required, obviously, but we don't think that one replaces the other. I think they can be used in conjunction with one another. I hope that helps. You know, regarding your kind of second and third questions regarding, you know, specific ESG, you know, research and specific, you know, research in certain areas, you know, I'm probably not super, I am not up to date with specific papers and kind of research opportunities that our students have done with ESG. I will say, just speaking to it overall, though, you know, in all the you know, business schools and schools of management out there, you know, we really do the kind of ESG, or you know, kind of focus on that really does sit well with our overall mission. So, you know, as much as I can't speak to specific research done by our students or kind of partners with ESG, I will say that it is very, very well regarded here and not offered in other types of programs, so to speak. You know, our students really want to give back and have very specific viewpoints about you know, what the types of investments they'd like to make. I mean, they're in constant contact with the Yale Investments Office, trying to kind of push them one way or the other. So it is very it is a very big thing on our campus, and I do think it's one of the things that sets our programs aside from other schools. Hopefully that helps.
Alright, semoga menjawab ya, Mas Raffi ya. So hope it's answer your question. Thank you, Miss Julie. And then I am going to move to another question. Ibu Putri PS, silahkan Ibu.
Hello, can you hear my voice?
Yes.
Hi, thank you so much for the opportunity. My name is Putri from Bandung. I'm going to go back to the application process. My question is, because I am an entrepreneur and currently applying for the LPDP Kewirausahaan Entrepreneurship. So my question is, who is the best person for me to ask for the recommendation letter? Because it's been a while since I was graduated from the university, and then I don't have any supervisor because I'm not working in any company. And then my second question is, buat maaf ya, aku jadi lupa karena deg-degan. Untuk kuliah di Yale, apakah ikutan juga Mbak sama apa namanya, ikutan ekstrakurikuler? Terus apa ya, dampaknya apa, sama kira-kira kalau misalnya kita ikut banyak ekstrakurikuler di sana mengganggu pendidikan selama di Yale apa enggak? Itu aja sih. Terima kasih banyak.
Okay, thank you Mbak Putri. Before to Julie, so maybe we can go to Ibu Miranti first. Mbak Miranti first. Mbak Miranti, silahkan.
Thank you banget. Ya, thank you Mbak Putri untuk pertanyaannya. Jadi ketika kuliah memang ada namanya student interest groups ya kayak semacam unit-unit kemahasiswaan lah ya, pas zaman kita S1 gitu kan. Nah, waktu itu aku tidak terlibat secara langsung dari sisi kayak member utamanya gitu, tapi lebih ikutan aktivitas kegiatan-kegiatannya yang memang relevan dengan bidangku gitu. Karena kalau misalnya mau diikutin di Yale itu tuh banyak banget. Jadi itu akan amat sangat menyita waktu. Jadi mau tidak mau kita memang harus memilah-milah yang mana yang benar-benar penting untuk kita ikutin sesuai dengan tujuan kita. Jadi yang memang bisa memperkaya di luarnya. Tapi masih tetap harus mindful dengan time managementnya aja sih. Nah, aku waktu itu lebih banyak ikutan konsep kayak conference dan sebagainya. Buat aku itu lebih cocok dengan bidangku. Tapi kan kalau bidangnya Mbak Putri mungkin bisa berbeda ya. Kalau misalnya dilihat itu lebih baik untuk mengembangkan network-nya, untuk mendapatkan skill-nya, mendapatkan knowledge-nya, go ahead. Tapi tetap mindful dengan time management-nya aja. Itu sih, semoga membantu jawabannya.
Semoga menjawab ya Mbak Putri ya. And then we are going to go to Julie. Okay, please Julie.
Sure. So I will answer your recommendation questions. It seems like, you know, I'm not sure exactly how many years you've been out of school, and then you are throwing an additional kind of challenge on top of that. It sounds like you are an entrepreneur and do not kind of have a traditional reporting system. So there's nobody kind of that you are, you know, able to readily get a, you know, or jumping out at you to get a professional recommendation.
Yeah.
I will say that, you know, we encourage you to get a recommendation on some level. It probably, I know it'll be challenging if you at all can think of, you know, someone who can either speak to your performance in the classroom. It sounds like it's maybe been a couple of years, but if there was a professor that is memorable and may remember you in some way, shape, or form. Perhaps there was a research project or something that you did specifically, you know, even if it has been a couple of years, you know, we might encourage you to reach out. You know, from a professional recommendation, because you are an entrepreneur and don't have, you know, a traditional work setting to pull a recommendation from. You know, I would encourage you to get creative. There's no one right answer for a recommender. Is there a vendor that you work with? Is there someone that you kind of do business with? Anybody who can offer some commentary on your business perspective and the way that you run things in your company would be helpful. And I will call out that this is a perfect example of perhaps when you should utilize the optional information section in the application. Here's where you can say, I found it challenging to, you know, this is why I selected this, you know, these two recommenders. It's been a couple years here. I chose to go with someone I did a research project with. That's not a typical academic recommendation, or, you know, this is, you know, a competitor to my small business. And this is someone who has really seen me work. It's not a traditional professional recommendation either. But you might provide some additional context for why you chose your recommenders. And that I think would be really helpful to the admissions team to kind of understand where you're coming from and why you made those selections.
If I asking the recommendation from my customer, is that okay?
Sure, and there's no wrong answer. Whoever, again, I'll kind of bring it back to whoever can provide context to how you run your business, how you perform in a business setting. You know, are you, you know, do you provide things? Is it organized or whatever they want to touch upon? Sure, if it's a customer that can give that perspective, then absolutely.
Okay, thank you so much, Julie.
That's sure.
Oke, semoga menjawab ya Mbak Putri ya. Baik, satu pertanyaan lagi sebelum kita beralih ke sesi selanjutnya. Apakah ada? Saya buka satu pertanyaan lagi yang akan raise hand kira-kira. Oke, pertanyaan terakhir mungkin kepada Mbak Ine Dewi ya. Mohon diperkenalkan nama dan juga asal institusi Mbak, silahkan.
Halo, apakah suara saya sudah terdengar?
Ya, terdengar.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Miss Julie and Kamiranti, for the presentation. I'm Ina from Jakarta. First is to Miss Julie. Let's say if I want to apply to Master of Business Administration in Yale University, is it possible to waive the GMAT score? And then to Kamiranti, as you said earlier, that we need to improve ourselves, not only in our academic area, but also in other aspects in our life. Therefore, we can have an outstanding CP. My question is, what kind of activities that can excel our CV, and then do these activities need to be in line with the majoring that we want to apply? I think that's all from me. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Alright, thank you. Maybe to Kak Miranti first maybe ya, and then we are going to Julie next. Oke, Kak Miranti silahkan Kak.
Thank you. Ini berarti terkait dengan untuk apply-nya ya, bukan ketika di sananya ya. Betul ya Mbak Ina ya?
Betul.
Iya. Jadi kalau misalnya waktu itu sih kayak lebih apa ya? Kalau tadi dilihat dari pertanyaan-pertanyaan di essay-nya, itu kan ada tentang bagaimana kita dengan community, gitu kan? Tadi yang ditunjukin nama Julie tadi. Kemudian aja juga tentang leadership. Jadi sebenarnya memperkaya portfolio itu adalah mendemonstrasikan tentang diri kita yang mana kita punya cerita untuk menjawab pertanyaan-pertanyaan di esai tersebut. Gitu sih sebenarnya. Jadi tidak perlu yang benar-benar outstanding, misalnya menjadi ketua himpunan, ketua BEM, nggak yang seperti itu juga gitu. Tapi benar-benar bisa menunjukkan bahwa oh kita itu ya memang kita punya kontribusi di komunitas, kita involved dalam community, community-nya bisa inline, bisa tidak, tapi apa yang kemudian bisa kita tarik sebagai cerita kita dari keterlibatan kita di komunitas tersebut. Atau misalnya dengan ketika masih kuliah nih di kemahasiswaan, sebenarnya apa sih yang kita lakukan? Misalnya, kayak tadi ada pertanyaan, tantangan apa sih dan bagaimana kita solve itu gitu. Kadang-kadang tantangan-tantangan tersebut tidak hanya ketika di pekerjaan ya, terutama misalnya fresh graduate mau langsung daftar S2 nih, mungkin belum ada working experience-nya. Ya mungkin tantangan itu ketika misalnya lagi di kegiatan kemahasiswaan, bikin event, arrange event, I.O., dan sebagainya gitu. Itu juga bisa dijadikan untuk memperkaya di portfolio kita juga sih. Semoga menjawab, Mbak Ina.
Terima
Iya.
kasih Kak Miranti.
Oke, semoga menjawab Mbak Ina. And then next to Julie. Julie, the question is it the possibility of the GMAT or maybe GRE waiver first? And then the second one is actually my question about the behavioral assessment. Yeah, you said before. Yeah, it's kind of like unique. I haven't heard before from the other university. And then why Yale use the behavioral assessment for what? Okay, thank you, Miss Julie. Maybe this is the last question.
Sure. I'll start with addressing the standardized test scores, either the GMAT or the GRE. The short answer is that we do unfortunately we do require a GMAT or a GRE standardized test score for when you apply to the MBA program. I will provide some context around that though, and say this is a lot of people ask us about, do we have a minimum score that we require or any kind of surrounding, obviously, as you can imagine, our students are some of the best and brightest in the world. So we do receive high scores for these. But I will stress that this is only one part of your application. If you are concerned, about submitting a test score, I would advise you to leave plenty of time to study for it and to rest assured that your application is not simply a test score. We take a look at the subsets of the test scores as well. So we really dig into it to kind of see what you're bringing to the table and in kind of what specific sections are you excelling in and what might be a little bit below par for some of our other students. So it is one part of your application. So I would encourage you to kind of approach it that way and not try, I know it's hard to try not to get too anxious about taking the test, but leave yourself plenty of time and recognize that it is one part of an overall application that we consider. We recognize that, not everybody is a slam dunk test taker, and we want to encourage people to apply, thinking of it as part of the whole application. I can even link that to the behavioral assessment as the second part of the question. And kind of what do we use that for, right? I know it's a little out of the box, and we get a lot of questions about it. People want to know how they can prepare for it, how they can what are we doing with it? How are we doing? And it's kind of the way I best explain it for both the Master's in Asset Management application and also for the MBA application. The use of the behavioral assessment is more of a softer side of things. We get GPAs and test scores and things like that, very kind of hard and fast, numbers and scores. The behavioral assessment allows us to kind of suss out some of the softer skills, if you will, that our students may bring to the table that we find extremely valuable. We look for certain things, in the behavioral assessment. you know, certain strengths that may not be exhibited in a hard and fast test score or a grade point average from an undergraduate transcript. So we try to weight those as well. It's not going to, as I said earlier, it's not going to be the deciding factor in your, if you are underperforming in a number of different areas, but you score particularly well in the behavioral assessment, unfortunately, that probably won't be enough to move the needle. But we really are looking for every opportunity for our students to excel and to exceed. And so we understand that, having some of these characteristics that lend themselves to success in the classroom and success in their professional life that may not have been exhibited clearly, in a GMAT or GRE score or a GPA, and maybe coming out kind of in a softer way. We wanted to take the time to really explore that. And so that's what we use the behavioral assessment for. You can't prepare for it. You can't, it's a forced question or a forced answer scenario. It's relatively short. It's painless, I promise.
Alright, thank you Miss Julie. Semoga jawabannya tadi memuaskan ya Mbak Ina ya, dan mudah-mudahan bisa dipersiapkan GRE dan juga GMAT-nya untuk masuk ke dalam YAL. Mudah-mudahan jadi salah satu WRD juga ya, seperti Mbak Miranti. Amin ya robbal alamin.